Hey guys, welcome to Healing Broken Trust podcast. I'm Morgan.
And I'm Brad.
And so sorry it's been such a long time since we've talked with you. We've just been super busy, haven't we, Brad?
Last time we recorded an episode, our daughter had just been born.
Yeah, now we're pregnant with our third child.
Yes. And so that tells you how much time has passed.
Yeah. Not much since she's
really
actually
not much. It's been
only
about,
one.
It's been about a year. But taking care of her, taking care of our first child.
Mm-hmm. Trying to get through this major virus situation.
Yes, the coronavirus.
So
if you're listening to this in the future, 5 years from now, it is April. It's in April. I won't say what date because this may not get out and may not become a podcast episode right away. But it's April 2020, and this is like you know what this is? This is a time capsule.
Yeah.
Hey, this is me from the past telling you what's going on
right now. I feel like I'm writing on a cave or something.
Yeah.
You know, or it's like you're writing your note to message in the bottle to go like send off. If you can see this, help me.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in my house.
Well, this looks really old. This guy's dead. And so
help.
We're under lockdown.
Yes.
We're practicing social distancing.
It's been a month now.
Oh man, the social distancing's hard, isn't it?
This is hard. This is so hard. You know, it was great for the first 3 weeks. I was like, I got this. And then now it's like, we've been stuck in here, have not seen anybody. I got out of the car one time to go to the Dollar General in the last 4 weeks. And I have not been out to see a human being for the last 4 weeks. And I am so over it. I'm tired.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. You know, it's hard because good relationships and just being around people is good for mental health.
But you know what's really strange is I'm at this point now where I don't even want to go see people.
Then you've crossed over the edge.
I've crossed over the edge. Like I'm like I can't even fathom the energy to like go and be social and like smile.
Yeah, you've crossed over the edge.
I'm over it. I'm crazy.
Yeah, no. But yeah, it's April 2020. Coronavirus is here. Hopefully, everybody, you guys are safe.
Yes.
Because this is, even though we're talking about this in a lighthearted way, this is impacting a lot of people, a lot of families.
It's very serious.
And so, really hope you guys are staying safe because there's people listening to this that are going to be impacted by this. So I hope you guys are all staying safe.
Yeah. And healthy.
And healthy.
Yeah.
So we hope you're safe and healthy. You know, the cure for this, the social distancing, I believe in it. I think it's the right move. But it's almost like, gosh, this is really hard. It's almost like the cure is hard. You know, and of course it's impacting everybody financially. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just difficult. And so that's kind of what we're personally dealing with. Yeah. We're all in the same soup. Mm-hmm. I did a TEDx talk back in November, and that will be online shortly. So don't look for it yet. We'll announce when it's ready to be available. So I've had people who've known I did it who are looking for it, and it's not online yet. Those things are nonprofit, so.
Yeah, so they kind of run a little bit slower.
Yeah, they're running it free.
Because they have day jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but, you know, what I did my TED Talk, I keep calling it TED Talk, my TEDx talk on, is similar to what we're talking about today. Mm-hmm. And so let's dive in.
Yeah, let's dive into what are we talking about today, Brad?
We are talking about, this isn't quite how I did my TEDx talk, but it's similar. We are talking about, it's actually not even remotely like my TEDx talk. So I think about it, there's an element, but there's only an element.
Yeah.
But this is really different in a lot of ways. But what we're talking about is basically how stress impacts our ability to be a caregiver.
Which is very pertinent to right now because we're all very stressed.
Yeah, we're all stressed.
And it just throws fuel on the fire when we're dealing with real really bad relationship things.
Yeah, we're
broken
dealing with
trust.
Yeah, we're dealing with betrayal, abandonment, infidelity.
And then people are stuck together through that and can't leave. Mm-hmm. And that's hard. You know, that's, I mean, we have a great marriage. It's still very hard. Because, you know, it's really funny. We were talking about this before we started recording. And it's like you're in very close quarters, you're quarantined, and yet you still can't seem to get good quality time. And I think it's partly with the kids. You know, the kids also have these emotional feelings. They're not seeing their friends. They can't go to school. They can't play out. You know,
they become more needy for our time and attention.
They need us more. And then there's nowhere to go. We're all just right here. And so there's not really any quality time, even though there's quantity of time. The quality really has suffered, and it's just, how do we get through this new thing?
Yeah, Morgan, you're bringing up a good point that I was going to mention, and that is, you know, when we're under stress, it really, stress causes us to need our spouse or our... You're bringing up a really good point, because stress causes us to need our spouse or our attachment figure in a new way, or in ways that we haven't needed them before. And so, you know, you're bringing up this, you know, how kids they don't have their usual outlets for self-care, to play, to be around their own friends, you know, to go outside, just to burn that energy off. And so they're bouncing off the walls inside, and they need mom and dad to be their social outlet. And they're needy, and you want to give it to them because you don't want to do anything to damage your children. But where does self-care come in into this equation?
Yeah, even for a little kid, but right now we're focused on the mom and dad.
Where is that self-care coming for us? Yeah, they're not getting the same levels of self-care or things that they do to burn off steam. But here's what stress does. Our ability to be a caregiver is directly related to the amount of stress we're under. So part of being a caregiver is being emotionally supportive, empathetic, and affectionate. And you could probably add some other things to that list, but being a caregiver is tied to being affectionate, empathetic, and emotionally supportive. And all of those things are harder to do when we're under stress. And as stress increases, it's harder to do that. And so, you know, obviously we're talking about infidelity. We're talking about how to heal from an affair, how to heal broken trust. And that is going to cause us to need our spouse who betrayed us to be a caregiver for us. And quite frankly, the spouse who had the affair really needs their spouse who they betrayed to be a caregiver for them as well. And so that can get tricky. So you kind of, in a weird way, you have to do it. You really have to do it in the right order, because the one who's injured, it's going to be very difficult for them to be a caregiver. It's very hard for them to be a caregiver. And it almost feels wrong to be a caregiver to someone who broke their trust. But it does have to eventually start going both ways for ultimate healing and the relationship to be restored the way it needs to be. But stress causes us to need each other in new ways. It causes us to need something we haven't needed before. It causes us to need emotional support in ways we haven't needed before. It makes us more needy. And so it causes us to, the things that we need, really go down into two categories. The first is emotional support. We need emotional support, but then we need physical support. And as adults, because we can do things on our own unless we're sick or handicapped, we can do everything we can do all the physical stuff for ourselves. But what we need really as adults is emotional support. And what our kids need, because they really can't do a lot for themselves when they're young, is physical support as well. Like we have a 1-year-old, you know, she needs a lot of physical support.
That's true. Along with the emotional support.
Yeah, they need the emotional support. Kids need both, but as we get older and we can do more for ourselves, unless we're sick or handicapped, then we don't really need as much physical support. Right. We need that emotional support.
Yeah. I mean, I guess physical support looks a little different. Like, we still need that touch. We need kissing and hugging. And so, I mean, in a sense, that is physical
you know, to be honest,
support.
They're physical actions, but I look at that. I look at those things as types of emotional support.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's important to delete.
Yeah, and honestly, even sex.
Yeah, that's true.
I look at that as emotional support.
It's physical, but it's really emotional and it's underlying current.
Yeah, even people who claim not to need anything or any emotions, they will still use sex as a way to feel better emotionally. You know, it's true. There's still something there.
It's a stimulant.
But, you know, part of what is going on in the world right now is that we all had plans for how this year was going to go.
That's right.
And this is how infidelity goes. Before trust is broken. Before trust is broken either way.
Yes.
Before either spouse's trust is broken. And I say that because sometimes the one who had the affair, their trust was broken first, some way.
Yeah.
Could have been years down the road, but
that causes them advance.
In advance. That causes them to retreat and pull back and stop asking for their wants and needs. They develop resentment, and then they get entitled. They start to think, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do. I've given up a lot. I've sacrificed a lot. So then they do that. But so we have our plans before the stressful event occurs.
Right.
And so we're dealing with we're dealing with normal everyday stresses.
Yeah.
Like I had a client recently who actually inspired this fantastic couple. I really like him a lot. We talked briefly about Tiger King. So if you're listening to this years down the road,
a guy from Oklahoma with a mullet who ran for governor is like the most popular person right now in Oklahoma, or actually really all over the world, because we're all in quarantine.
Yeah. So we talked a couple minutes about how social distancing is going. Tiger King, and they've moved recently. So stress, moving is already stressful, but stress, we're dealing with these everyday stresses.
Right.
So you're adding healing from an affair and moving, and now all of a sudden social distancing.
And your plans, like all the life plans you've made, all the things you think are going to happen are no longer possible. And it's like, whoa, it's just this like kick in the gut. Okay, oh shoot. So now I have to kind of come up with this whole new normal. And it's interesting.
But stress overwhelms us.
Yes.
You can have too much stress where we get overwhelmed and we get in this toxic level of stress. And, most of us can probably handle things for a short period of time that are stressful. Like you said, like
3 weeks.
3 weeks, and then boom.
Bam.
Like, it's like, but it overwhelms our ability to give, and we become needy. And it's hard in a relationship when we're both really stressed out by something, when we're both impacted. It's easier when only one of us are impacted by something, but not both of us. But when both of us are really impacted, it overwhelms us. It overwhelms
the system.
Yeah. And it causes us to need something we haven't needed before. And it requires us to give something we haven't given before, or we're not used to giving. And it requires us to need things that we don't even know how to ask for. And so it overwhelms the system. And, to be honest with you, Morgan, this is where I usually see people come into my office, is some period of time beforehand. They can have a good enough marriage and things can be fine and really have a good marriage in a lot of ways, but then they go through something really stressful. Their world gets turned upside down. It could be the death of a parent. It could be financial trouble. It could be a job promotion, something good. Could be, but
a new child, which is
a new child, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
But the system gets overwhelmed with stress, and they're not able to care for each other in the same ways. They need new things, and sometimes they don't know how to ask for those things. Sometimes they don't know how to give those things. And so then they start getting into areas where I'm needing help, you're not there, and it could be, really bad things like the coronavirus, death, but they end up feeling abandoned. They end up feeling deserted
because their spouse is not able to respond.
Or they don't even realize how important this is.
Right.
They're not psychologists. They're not trained in stuff like this, so they don't know how important these moments are. They're not relationship therapists, so they don't know how important this stuff is. And so what ends up happening is they end up feeling deserted, betrayed, hurt. When my spouse isn't here and I need you, I feel like I no longer matter to you because you're not there for me now. And what ends up happening is I put up my guard, I put up my wall, and I no longer start looking to you for emotional support. I stop asking for wants and needs to be met, stop looking to you to be my attachment figure, and I start leaning on myself more. And when that happens, people who do that are really ripe for betraying their spouse's trust. And a lot of people who break their spouse's trust, that's exactly what happens sometime before they act out in an affair. And that's not everybody, but that's pretty consistent with people I see.
Yes. So you have some ideas about how to manage some of the stress. Can we go ahead and talk about that?
Yeah, I think, the things that strengthen a bond are going to be things like availability to your spouse. Things like, let me back up a second, because that's a good question. So the negative cycle gets started when we start to need our spouse in a new way. The negative cycle starts because the attachment system gets activated. And so there's three main components to any relationship, any romantic relationship. You have the friendship part of the relationship. That's the first component. Then you have the romantic or slash sexual side of the relationship. And then you have the attachment side. And the attachment side only shows up during periods of distress when we need emotional support. So that attachment side isn't the whole gamut of a relationship. You're mainly operating in a friendship, companionship role the majority of the time with somebody that you lean on in emotional times and that you find attractive and you find sexual connection with.
Right. But whenever we're stressed.
When we're stressed, the stress or threats or insecurities, those types of things could be outside stress, internal stress, could be thoughts, could be, feelings, but that causes us to need emotional support. It activates the attachment system. And the good way to think of the attachment system is the emotional support system, emotional support part of us. And when we have that, as children, we grow up to be generally pretty well off, pretty happy people, pretty healthy individuals as far as our mental health goes. But if we don't have that, then we're going to, struggle more.
And one thing you just kind of touched on briefly, and I think is also part of some of the things you're wanting to talk about, is internal stress and external stress, right? So you've got kind of the internal workings and then kind of how the external environment kind of plays on kind of what's already happening, right? So it sounds like we have to take care of ourselves so that we aren't giving from an empty cup, right? We have to give of ourselves, but we have to kind of give to ourselves as well.
Yeah, we have to give, and it's kind of like the face mask analogy, you're in a plane, and you got to put the little mask on. Do that first, and then give it to your child, because our relationship with ourself is our most important relationship we have in our lives.
Yeah, it's not selfishness or self-centeredness. No. It's actually, a way to give to others by helping yourself so that you can give.
Yeah, but our relationship with ourself is going to be our most important relationship. And how that relationship with ourself goes is going to determine can really greatly determine the quality of our other relationships. And so the relationship with ourself is really our most important. If that's good, it's easier to give as well.
Yeah, so I think in this time of stress, specifically in the situation we're in now with the coronavirus and then piling on top of any sort of other relationship stress, it's okay to ask for what you need and
yes, I agree with that. Let me back up though, because there's some stuff I wanted to say.
Oh, okay, sure.
But the caregiving system is really important. So distress or stress or threats, whether they're negative thoughts or insecurities that we have, or something outside, like a cheetah chasing us. That's the original idea of why we needed support. It's a cheetah, the fight or flight act. Yeah, it's an actual thing chasing you. So you need to run back to your tribe and, hey, guys, let's get our spears and kill this. And so, but what stops distress, so it activates what's called proximity seeking, which is where I need to seek you out for comfort and support. What stops that can lead into a negative cycle if we're not met with the love and the care that we need. What stops negative cycles is feeling cared for emotionally. And so when we feel cared for emotionally by our spouse in the way that we need it, that's what stops negative cycles.
Not in the way that the spouse thinks it should be done.
Yeah.
It's in the way that we personally need it.
Yeah. And let me say this. You and your spouse probably have completely different ways, different emotional needs, different ways to even seeing the relationship. One of you guys is more of a pursuer, the other one's more of a distancer. Different ideas, different needs. One of you wants to talk about stuff, the other one wants to just shut down, not talk about anything. Like completely radical different needs, different ways of seeing the relationship.
And it can change at any moment.
Yeah. And so that's a very good point. Like, it's what your spouse needs. But when we feel cared for in the ways that we need to feel cared for, then the negative cycle stops. Then we can resume. Then we can get back to life as normal again. Then we feel loved and we feel secure and can go on with life as normal. But here's the other kicker. So here's how caregiving shows up in a relationship. It shows up by feeling like my spouse is available to me. So the behaviors that strengthen a bond, this is what research shows, and this is really important if you're taking notes, the behaviors that strengthen a bond are behaviors of availability, being sensitive, and being supportive. So you're being available as your spouse needs you to be, you're being sensitive, and you're being supportive. Those are the three behaviors that really cause people to feel cared for, which stops negative cycles, stops the negative communication. And now that shows up in different ways. We're talking about affair recovery. I need you to be honest with me. That's a big way it shows up. I need you to end the affair. I need you to be kind. I need us to have a date night. I need us to be romantic. I need us to make love. I need this. I need that. I don't need this. I don't need that. Like when that's met, and that obviously goes both ways in this equation. When that happens, we can feel secure. Our thoughts can begin to settle. We can begin to move forward. But when we don't feel secure, when we don't feel like our spouse is available as we need them to be, or sensitive or supportive, we get stuck in that negative cycle. But here's the behaviors that are the opposite of that. That research shows keep us stuck and actually create more insecurity in our relationships and keep us stuck in these negative cycles of communication. It's experiences of disapproval, criticism, and rejection. And so when our spouse says, the common thing I see a lot is trickle truth, or somebody not ending the affair, or, you name it. All these common things that we experience. What weakens a bond is experiences of disapproval, criticism, and rejection. And so those are the kinds, but they're the exact opposite of availability. Rejection is the opposite of availability. Disapproval is the opposite of supportiveness, and criticism is the opposite of sensitivity. And when we have that, it really can hurt us, or it can really help us, depending on what we're giving. But so anyway, I can keep talking more and more about why, what caregiving is, but let's talk more about why it's important, which is what you were getting to.
Yeah.
Because our level of caregiving is going to be impacted by how well we manage stress. And so sometimes the people who get betrayed, they're dealing with trauma symptoms, PTSD symptoms, and then, that's going to impact their level of their ability to be a caregiver. Sometimes the one who has the affair, I say sometimes, a lot of times, for the one who was betrayed and the one who was unfaithful, they're dealing with a lot of shame. I feel like a total dirtbag. I feel like I'm the worst person on the planet. I never once thought in a million years I would do this. And they don't feel like they can be an adequate caregiver. Like, who, me? I'm the one who's supposed to help you through this? I'm the one who's supposed to put you back together? I'm supposed to support you in this when I'm the one who hurt you? How is that possible? And so those feelings of guilt, shame, they really get in the way of our ability to be a caregiver. But that caregiving stops the negative cycle when it's there. There's sometimes factors that get in the way of that. And what usually gets in the way of that is stress that we're feeling. And it's our relationship with ourself is off. And so that impacts our ability to give as well. And so I'm looking at my notes here. I wanted to take good notes today because I know it's been a while. So I'm just looking here.
It's been quite some time since we've had a chance to talk with you.
Morgan was saying earlier, like, she can't read my handwriting. I'm really struggling to read my handwriting
It's
now.
chicken scratch. Well, one of the things that's important that we were kind of discussing was the idea of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
You've been kind of wanting to talk about self-care and ways that we can manage that internal world, because it really helps us to be able to give, right? If we've sort of filled the cup, that whole analogy with can't pour from an empty cup. Well, we have to find ways to help ourselves in this uncertain time where we don't really have a lot of physical space that's free. What can we do to take care of ourselves?
Okay. I think there's like 6 main things
Yeah.
that we need for self-care.
Mm-hmm.
and this is just more about what we're going, you know, in general, self-care in general, but definitely now that we're under social distancing with coronavirus.
Yeah.
But even if you're listening to this later and this is past, this is still good.
Yeah, it's
These
important.
are things that all apply.
Yeah.
So the first thing I have is eat right.
Yeah, which is like impossible because all I want to do is make brownies and drink soda pop. Which...
You know, there's something interesting I heard
Yeah.
is that all the organic vegan food nobody bought, like, because like everybody bought like Oreos and like
Yeah.
processed food because it's what you need to last.
Yeah,
If
you
you're-
need to last, but they don't understand how the immune system works, right? You
Yeah.
need like blueberries and avocado and like healthy fats and healthy, all that green food and stuff like that. But people are like, forget that. I want my Oreos. I need to sit on the couch. I'm gonna watch me some Tiger King.
Yeah, I'm gonna be away from people.
Yeah. Nobody's gonna see my fat.
Yeah. You know, I had another client say, she'll get a kick out of this if she's listening to it. They're calling this COVID-19, but this is going to be like the freshman 15, so it's the COVID-15.
Yeah.
So in college, you gain 15 pounds. This is like the COVID-15.
I actually lost 30 pounds my freshman year.
Yeah, that's good.
I was fat in high school. That's actually...
Well, you're beautiful now.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
But the first, so if you're taking notes, the first thing is eat right. And then the second is exercise.
Oh my gosh. You know, the only way I've been able to get any exercise in is so far, and I've talked to death about this to other people, but like a routine, right? Putting a routine together.
Yeah.
Which
that's number 5 on my list.
Number 5. Well, I think they go hand in hand, you know?
Oh, they do, yeah.
Because
discipline,
like exercise is really, like you're saying, a discipline. And if I don't make time for things or schedule things in, it's just not going to happen, you know? And for me, I know I like to put things in like time blocks. So I'll say, okay, you know, I'll get up about 7:00 and then I'll get ready and then I'll make everybody breakfast. But if that happens at 8:00 or 7:55 or 7:30, that's fine. Just doing it in a particular order really helps kind of keep my sanity. Otherwise, I would just be sitting on the couch, like staring at Facebook and, you know, doing nothing. But if I know, oh wait, right now, this is what I need to be doing. And I could imagine someone else who maybe they just learned about the affair too. I mean, it rocks your world.
Oh gosh, yeah, and you can't get away from each other.
Yeah, but if you can, but even if you can get away from each other and you're sort of like, oh my gosh, what do I do right now with myself and to keep my brain together, you know, because your mind can go all sorts of places. Just having a routine, say, okay, 11:00's lunch, get up, make lunch, you know, and just sort of have these checkpoints in the day where you're like, okay, I'm getting off whatever I'm doing and I'm going to go and do the next thing, because it drives forward your day and helps you to kind of keep things kind of going in life. So that's helped me a ton, mentally, emotionally.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that routine's real important.
Yeah.
You know, part of a routine is just keeping your house clean, I think.
Yeah, which is really hard.
You know, yeah, it's hard because...
Especially with kids.
Yeah, the kids are home. They're like...
And you have a 1-year-old who throws everything on the floor.
Yeah. You know, but eat right, exercise. You know, part of exercise that's really good is yoga.
Oh, yeah. All the breathing.
The breathing, especially when you're dealing with trauma. Something interesting about yoga. Really good book everybody should get called The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh, yeah.
If you've had your trust broken, or if you've broken your spouse's trust, if you've been on either side of this equation, you need to get the book The Body Keeps the Score. It is... I'm pretty shallow. I do judge books by their cover. and so this book has the worst cover known to man. So you're going to go to Amazon, you're going to look at The Body Keeps the Score, and you're going to be like, this is really... can this really be a good book? I'm telling you, it's a
self-published.
Yeah, it's a page turner. It is, but it's all about trauma and PTSD
and how it's stored in the body.
Well, yeah, it gets stored in the body. It covers all the recent research. But what also is good about it is the guy who wrote it. He's probably the #1 authority on trauma and PTSD, and it is so he started his career in the 70s working with the Vietnam vets. So he really gives you the whole, and he goes back even further, like in the 1800s when psychologists and were working on PTSD, and some of those early ideas were actually more accurate back then than what eventually came later.
Interesting.
But what he said is there's studies on yoga. In yoga, the stretching exercise and the breathing exercise of yoga, that has been able to help people even when regular trauma treatments haven't been able to help people.
I could see that.
And so it just helps people get in touch with their bodies. It helps people, just helps them in very significant ways.
Oh yeah, sending the oxygen down to all the muscle groups and then stretching them out. And then, yeah, I could totally see that. Because I think one of the things that people who've had trauma, knowing from even personal experiences, we kind of hold our breath sometimes. And it's really easy to kind of start to kind of find ourselves getting angry or having a short fuse because we're holding our breath. But if you're focusing on in and out, the breathing and kind of, stretching the body, I can see how that would make a huge difference.
It makes a huge difference for people. And even in some ways, you still need to see a trauma therapist.
Yes. If
you've been betrayed. And really, even if you've had an affair, you should still see a trauma therapist. Because sometimes people who stray are reenacting previous trauma that they've had. And that could be a different podcast episode. So people who've had an affair need to also do trauma treatment.
Take care of themselves.
Yeah, they really need to. But the ones who've been betrayed, they're generally, going to deal with some PTSD symptoms.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And we're not diagnosing you through a podcast without meeting you. We're not diagnosing you that.
Right.
We're just talking about trends that we see.
Yes. So the third one.
Yeah, so number 1 is eat right. 2 is exercise.
Yes.
Yoga is a good exercise, especially when you can't get out of the house. There's good apps, YouTube videos on that.
Yep.
3rd is sleep.
Yeah.
You got to get good sleep.
Yeah.
This is a little interesting statistic. Like half of mood disorders. No, maybe not even half. Maybe like, I'm going to get this wrong and I shouldn't say this.
A large portion. There's a significant portion.
Let me say it that way. That's a good way to put it. A significant portion of mood disorders, like depression, anxiety, are rooted in a lack of sleep. And so,
or maybe even too much sleep. I could see that going both ways.
Oh yeah, people who are depressed really sleep a lot too.
Yeah.
They either not get enough or they're sleeping too much. But there's something about not getting enough sleep that contributes to depression. Here, number 4. Even though we're practicing social distancing, we got to find ways to be social with people.
Yeah.
So how that looks like,
you
got to be responsible. You got to do it in a responsible way. But we got to find ways to be social with people, whether that's FaceTime, whether that's, video messaging. We got to find phone calls.
Well, one thing I did early on, at the very, very beginning of our quarantine, there was someone who had a baby and I took a meal to them. So just being like altruistic in the sense of doing something for someone else. Our neighbor has these little palm tree plants, and for Palm Sunday, I was walking outside with the kids and ran into the neighbor, and he very graciously gave us part of the palm frond. So what are we doing? We're going to make him banana bread and a thank you note.
Is that what that banana bread
yeah,
is?
that's what that's for. And so, like reaching out to the neighbors, write them a letter, writing thank you notes and just cards to people, which is something that's on my list to send to my friends and just to tell them, hey, I miss you. Something else that people are doing. If it's someone's birthday, they're doing these little like drive-by birthday parades. But in my opinion, we should be doing parades for people just because we miss them. Maybe if they've had a baby or something like that, that's a great way to celebrate happy birthday. You just had a baby. But I would literally just go honking by my friend's house. I miss you, which is probably strange and weird if you just, try to get a couple of friends to do it at the same time. And ta-da, you got a parade. Just like silly things.
No, that makes sense.
Because we're just, socially.
But, I mean,
it's hard.
But, part of good mental health is just social contact with people.
Yeah, thinking outside of yourself.
Yeah, but we're practicing social distancing.
Yeah,
and that's gonna impact our mental health and our care, our level of self-care, and our ability to give. As well. And so, I would say be social with people, but do it in a very responsible way. I'm not advocating going out and I'm saying, I'm being open-ended with this, but obviously be responsible.
Right.
Like,
follow the rules.
Yeah, because with the coronavirus,
careful.
you can be sick and not even have symptoms and spread it.
Yeah.
And you can, you don't want to have that on your hands.
Right.
So be careful how you do it, but you can practice safe social distancing and still be social.
Yes, and one thing I would say that kind of is making me think of this, when I was thinking about writing like notes to friends and stuff, just the idea of being gracious, having gratitude, being thankful, talking about the things you're thankful for. It can be hard to do when you're like stuck in a rut, which we've been in several times through this quarantine. But like that attitude of gratitude, as Oprah says, really does help lift the mood. And so self-care.
Yeah. And so Morgan, number 5. So number 1 is eat right. 2, exercise. 3 is sleep. 4 is social with people, but in a responsible way where we're still practicing social distancing. 5, the routine that you mentioned.
That beloved routine.
Talk about routine. Like you schedule your day.
Yeah. So I literally, I thought about kind of what worked well for the whole family and for the kids and the elements that we needed. We need exercise. I need to homeschool because all of a sudden I'm now a homeschool mom, which actually, honestly, I've really enjoyed. And I can talk a little bit more about how we've sort of, only 15 minutes for a 4-year-old, 15 to 30. But once it becomes too much, I just say, okay, sounds like we are done for today. That's okay. We'll pick it up tomorrow and everything's positive. And then, just routine. So I just went in the notes app on my phone and I said, okay, well, if I get up at about 7, I'm not wasting my day sleeping. I'm going to stay kind of routine, get ready in about 30 minutes, make breakfast. And then we immediately go for a walk after breakfast, just as soon as we can, because I know that number 1, it's going to get hot because it's going to be the summertime. And then number 2, just to get the blood flowing, just so we're not like becoming couch potatoes, because the longer the day goes, the easier it is for me to just sit on the couch and do nothing. And I don't want that. And so we go walking. I turned it into a botany lesson. Hey, there's a tree. What's it called? Let's look at a YouTube video on the life cycle of a dandelion and that kind of thing. And come home, and then I do just a 5-minute YouTube video on exercise for myself. And that's really helped. It's a 5-minute video, and if I want to do longer than 5 minutes, which when is that? I don't know. But like you just double it up. You do the video again. And it's a great just plyometrics.
The routine helps with boredom.
Yes, helps with boredom.
Provides structure.
Yes, provides structure, all of those things. I could go into great detail about my routine, which I won't do, as Brad's, helping me not do. But, and then lunch is at 11, so like, and we make sure we schedule in prayer and all of the things that are important to just keeping things together mentally, emotionally, the routine. So I could just talk forever about routine, but okay. I won't.
So that's Morgan's routine. The last thing I have on the list is time to self to process things.
Oh, now that is really interesting and very hard. Tell me more. What are you saying?
Well, when we don't get alone time, like I have more time. I had more time. I was super busy at the office anyway. I had no time to myself. So if a client emailed me, it'd be like a while before I get back to him because I just don't have time. Right. It's even worse now.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I'm, if I leave my room that I'm seeing clients in, like through virtually seeing clients in, our son hears me leave and is like, Dad,
it's Dad. And so,
and he's alone and needs social contact too.
Yeah.
But that time to self to process things is really important.
Right.
And that may mean reading. That's usually how I process things is read. I don't read fiction. I can't tell you the last fiction book I read. It's been a decade, probably.
A long time.
It's been a very long time since I read it. No, I read Murder on the Orient Express. I felt really dumb reading that book because I had no idea what was going on. Because the book was written like 70 or 80 years ago, and we don't use our English language has changed. And I'm like, what happened here? Because the movie was coming out. Yeah. And so I ended up getting the audio book, and I'm like, oh, I can understand better now. But reading, I'm like, I don't understand anything. But I read all the time nonfiction.
Oh, sure.
I'm reading all the time every day. Different ways that I can grow better in all kinds of different things. Stuff about what I do for a living related to that.
Oh, yeah.
Other things.
He likes to imagine where he could go in the future, like with our business or with clients and all that fun stuff. Yeah. And I guess, what do I do? Yeah. I like to exercise.
Yeah, but we gotta, an exercise could be that, but we have to have time to ourselves to process things.
Yeah.
Reading is how I do it. It could be going for a walk. It could be exercise. But we have to have time to process things, because when I don't get my time to process things, I'm shorter. I'm more irritable.
Yes, you are.
And
yep.
And people are
Preach
like...
Preach it.
Yeah. But, people look at, like, hey, Brad and Morgan have this great relationship. They never have any struggle because they have this podcast. No, we're all in the same...
Oh, yeah.
We're all in the same boat.
We're normal humans.
Yeah, we're all normal.
Yeah. We have a great relationship, but there's still struggles like everyone else.
Yeah. But we're not immune to stress. And so we have to practice what we preach. A dentist still has to brush his teeth and floss. He's telling everybody else to do that. He's got to do it himself. We're the same way. And so, but that time to process things is really important.
And it's really hard, because when your kids don't, they don't sleep in their own beds.
Yeah.
They pretty much wake you up at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They'll start in their bed and then they'll come in our bed.
Anyways.
But here's the thing. We need time to process things. It's often hard to ask for that. So I see you struggling. I see you dealing with all this. Maybe I'm still working at home and going to the office because I'm essential. Somehow I'm essential. And I'm able to go to the office and still go to work. But you're no longer working, and now you're thrust into an environment and a routine that's not your normal one. When you're out working, I'm okay. I'm chill. I'm still my normal routine. I'm still getting my time to myself with drive, with listening to what I want to listen to, and so it can be really hard to ask for what we need.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of when you have a baby, like your first baby too. The dad will get some paternity leave, hopefully, but then the mom is kind of now thrust into this home life with a new child who now if she was working, isn't working the same way or at all anymore. And the husband goes off and does the normal work routine. I mean, ideally, obviously sometimes families aren't structured that way. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes she goes off to work and he stays home with it. That's totally something that happens. But either way, the person who's staying at home with the child, it's like this whole new thing. They have to learn how to ask for those needs and figure out, what do I need? This is like new. I've never needed like this before.
Yeah, you become needy in new ways you haven't needed before.
Yeah.
We need to wrap up. So how do you know what you need?
Okay.
How do you know when you're needy? When you feel a buildup of stress or irritability. And then, Morgan, you say you added to that as well when you notice your energy dropping.
Oh, yeah. The energy dropping piece. Because, that could be a sign of falling into depression, or it could be a sign that some part of you needs some care. Maybe you need something to eat. Maybe you need better sleep. Whatever it is, you're right. That it could be just a change in energy. Either too much energy or too little energy can be an indicator that, hey, I'm in need of something. I feel like needy maybe is a little bit negative sounding. It's not really needy. It's more like I'm in need. There's a need that's not being met that I need to really take some time alone to really think about, what is it that I need? What am I missing? And maybe it's just that alone time. It could just be straight up alone time that you don't have, that you need to fill that bank.
Yeah, and honestly, that could be half an hour. That could be 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It could be just running and, just...
getting the groceries from the grocery pickup.
Or, could be anything.
Yeah.
Couple thoughts. I feel like I'm at my best when I feel like I'm growing.
Yeah.
When I feel like I'm learning something.
Yeah.
And so when I don't feel like I'm learning, or I don't get a chance to read and improve myself in some way, I don't feel like I'm growing then.
I guess for me, it's when I feel like I'm accomplishing something, which is a similar thing, but maybe a little bit different. Like I'm building our new website, and so I'm redoing blog posts and stuff like that, and so I feel like I'm accomplishing something for like the greater business purpose, or like I'm actually doing something in the line of my work, So yeah, similar.
Yeah, it's good.
What is it for you guys? Think about what it is for you.
Because sometimes it's hard to know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to know what we need for self-care, and it's even hard sometimes to ask for what we need.
Oh yeah.
It's really hard for the spouse or the partner who's more of the withdrawer. to ask for what they need.
Yeah.
They have difficulty asking for that. And so if you're not the withdrawer in your relationship, maybe you can initiate and ask, hey, what do you need to take some time to yourself this week or even today?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just maybe be thinking of your spouse and being proactive?
Mm-hmm.
That helps. I've tried to do that with Morgan, and she's returned the favor and done that with me.
Yeah, it helps.
Last thought, when you're doing good, when your relationship with yourself is doing good, it's a rising tide that raises all ships. And so when you're doing well yourself, when you feel like you're taking care of yourself, all the relationships in your life improve. So that's why the self-care is so important, because stress impacts our ability to care for others. So we need to have self-care, rest, exercise, eat right,
sleep. You said that.
Yeah.
Routine.
Being social with people in responsible ways during this period of social distancing. And taking time to yourself just to process things.
Yeah, quiet time.
And sometimes when we give that care, I'll just say this, when we give that care, we can say something as simple as, when we know our spouse is stressed, we can say something as simple as, I know you're doing the best job you can. Everything right now is incredibly stressful. So we want to give validation and words of encouragement.
Yeah.
And reminders as well that, look, I know this is temporary. We're going to get through this. Take the time that you need to yourself. I'm here for you.
And it's kind of the benefit of the doubt as well. Like, hey, I know you notice that they're snippy or snappy or whatever. If you can step away from that and distance yourself, like mentally, and not like do what I do sometimes, which is like fire right back, and just step back and say, I know it's really hard right now. I know that you're doing your very best. I know this is just a temporary, and even touch their arm or something, let them know, hey, I'm with you. It's pretty powerful and helpful.
Yeah. So part of, Morgan, along with that, part of what spouses need, what you may need, and what you may need to articulate to your spouse is words of affirmation, words of validation, encouragement, and gentle touch. Just feeling touched can calm somebody down who's really feeling anxious.
Especially from the most important attachment figure in their life.
Yeah.
Talking all therapeutic and all that jazz, but like the most important person.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
This is a little longer than I thought it was going to go. But thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We are still doing, I don't know if we mentioned this in the beginning, so I'll say it now. We are going to, some point in the future, we're going to do workshops.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that, contact us. We are also doing coaching, virtual coaching or distance therapy through video conferencing. What has happened now because of the coronavirus, we are able to see people through video conferencing across state lines.
Yeah, and insurance is actually going to cover. Or
It looks like, as of right now, it looks like insurance will cover services like what we do, as long as it's already on your insurance plan.
Yeah,
it'll cover that. And so, if you need help, reach out. We have myself, we have other therapists that work here. We want to support you guys. I know some of you guys. This is a tough time for everybody right now.
Oh yeah.
And it's harder it's hard already, but just if you're under normal times. But if you're dealing with fair recovery and broken trust,
job loss,
is true.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that today, but you got that. There's just a lot going on right now.
There is, yeah. And we want to help you, and we don't want anything to be a barrier to you getting help. So check us out at healingbrokentrust.com. Healingbrokentrust.com is our website. You can learn more about how to just get some help. And we also have some free downloads there that go along with the podcast. Some quizzes and some things to download that will just be helpful to you. We hope it's helpful. If you have any comments or questions or anything about it, please reach out to us. We do care. We do want to make it the best it could possibly be. So definitely reach out.
Yeah, healingbrokentrust.com.
Yep.
We'll have how you can contact us if you need any of that.
That's right.
Thank you guys.
All right.
Hope you guys are doing great, and hopefully we'll
be able to talk again soon.
We'll be talking.
We've missed
soon.
you. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.